All right, everybody, welcome to week 5. This week we're going to get into some logic and some concepts that are pretty difficult to wrap your head around sometimes. I struggle with them often. There's a lot of stuff in Module 3. As you can see, we're just going to do modules 3.1 and 3.2 this week, but there are a lot of labs. It's important that you understand these basics because the logic that we cover here is going to be in probably every program that you ever write. So if you get them confused, your programs aren't going to work, and it's going to be hard for you to go back and troubleshoot and figure out why. So really practice this week. Get these labs done. Practice on your own. Make your own little programs that do some of the stuff we cover, just so you make sure you understand the concepts. With that, I'm going to jump right in to PyCharm. A couple of things. Let's see. The assignment operator we cover. So variable equals 5. This equal sign is an operator. There are lots of different operators. This one is the assignment operator. Makes sense? We are assigning the value of 5 to this variable. That is different from two equal signs. It's a different operator. This is called the equality operator. And what this statement right here says is the variable is equal to 5. This is the variable equals 5. It is 5. And this is equal to. This is not assigning the value. This is actually checking to see if variable is equal to 5. I don't know if that makes sense. But we'll check that out right here. So if we print this, it's going to give us a Boolean value, either true or false. In this case, it should be true. If I run this, it will print the word true, or return the value of true. If the variable, I change the value of the variable and run it, it prints false because the variable is not equal to 5. It's something different. So this will print true if the variable is equal to 5, and false if the variable is not equal to 5, because it's not. Not to be confused with is not equal to. So what is this? The exclamation point and the equal sign means is not equal to. So this will check to see if the variable is not equal to 5. So with two equal signs, it printed false because it was not equal to. So if I run this, it should be true. And then if I change this back, it'll run it and it'll be false because the variable is not equal to 5, as opposed to is equal to 5. Make sense? There are lots of other operators. Well, not lots, but so let's say if the variable, why is it doing that? If the variable is greater than 5, it should print true, right? So if the variable is 6, which is greater than 5, it'll print true. If it's 5, what will it print? False. Because it's not greater than 5, it's equal to 5. So you need to remember, so you've got greater than and less than, and then you have greater than or equals to, less than or equals to. So in this statement, the variable is greater than or equal, is the variable greater than or equal to 5? And if I run that now, it should print true because it is equal to 5. If I put 6, it'll also do true because it's now greater than 5. So remember that greater than or equal to, if you put that equal to in there, it is inclusive of the number that you put in your condition. So if you want to see if a number is greater than 10, but not 10, just use the greater than variable. If you want to see it's less than 10, but not 10, just use a less than. But if you want to include that 10, make sure you use the equal to. That's something that we forget a lot of times to do. Not equal to, okay. Conditions and conditional execution. So I'm going to introduce you to the if-else statement. If the variable is equal to 6, is equal to 6, we're going to do something. Oh my goodness gracious. My keyboard is acting up today. So when I run this, if the variable, this is how you do an if statement. You can see that if is orange, it's a keyword. You put your condition inside parentheses and then end it with a colon. The code that you want to execute, you must indent underneath the if. Otherwise, it's not considered to be inside the if. Indentations are very important in Python, so try and keep your code neat and clean. Make sure your indentations are correct. So if the variable equals 6, it will print variable equals 6. Run it, variable equals 6, because the variable does equal 6. If I change that to a 5 and run it, it doesn't do anything because it checks this condition. It finds it to be false, so it does not execute the code in the if statement. Does that make sense? And if I do this, so when you're finished with your if statement, you go back to the outside, you don't indent anymore. So you're outside of the if statement. So if I run this, dang it, I want to debug. You'll see that it checks this statement. It finds it to be false, so it does not execute this. It jumps out of the if statement and then back to, whatever's farthest to the left, the next piece of code that's not indented, and it'll run this out of if statement. So if I change this back and the statement is true, it will execute this code and it will still also execute this code. Does that make sense? I hope so. I'm not getting answers. So make sure that when you write an if statement, you make sure your syntax is correct. If, the parentheses, your condition, and a semicolon. Sometimes I'll forget to put these semicolons in there. Because this is not such a strict language, there's not so much punctuation, but in a lot of the other languages, you have to have lots of colons, semicolons, and stuff everywhere. So sometimes I forget which one's which. So let's say you want it to do something else as well. If it's not 6, you don't want it to just not do anything. Else, colon, and then I'll start doing single quotes. Single quotes is single quotes and double quotes pretty much are the same thing in Python. I tend to hit the shift key and make double quotes. I don't know why. Single quotes are much easier. You just have to hit it, you don't have to hit the shift key. Anyway, so in this, again, the variable is equal to 6. It's gonna check if the variable is equal to 6. If it is, it'll print that the variable is equal to 6. Now, we've added this else statement. So if it's not equal to 6, or if the variable is anything other than 6, it could be A or B, whatever. If it's anything other than 6, it will print the variable is not equal to 6. And you'll see that this continues to print regardless because it's outside of the if statement. It doesn't make a difference. So we can change this to anything. And it'll just keep saying that the variable is not equal to 6 because it's in this else statement. There are nested if-else statements, and those can be seen as they're like elif, E-L-I-F, else if. Every language has these. They just are executed a little differently. So now it's going to check, when I run the program, the first thing it's going to do is check the first if. It will check this condition. If this condition is false, it will not execute the code. If it's true, it will, and then it'll stop. It'll jump out because the first if that comes true, all the rest of the ifs, it doesn't look at. So if the variable is 6, it'll print variable equals 6. I'm not sure. I may have told you a lie there. I'm not sure if it actually checks these conditions or not. However, they're going to be false. So it'll check this first condition and print this. And then it may check this condition. I don't know if it stops or not. Okay, so variable equals 6. If I change that variable to 5, it's going to check this condition, find it to be false, and it will not execute this code. It will then check this condition, and since that condition is true, it will print this code. And then if it is not 5 or 6, and I run it, it just says whatever else, it'll execute this code. And again, when you're done with your else if, come back out and it will run the next piece of code outside of that statement. That's about as simple as I can get with if statements. They get a lot more complicated, but I can't simplify it much more than that. How would you do that with user input? Well, we just assignment, make the assignment to an input. And some of your assignments will have you do this. And this is why I taught you this last week or the week before, I can't remember which, but taking a variable from a user is fairly important. So if the user types 6, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Because variable was equal to 6. And it said it was not. Run that again. I know why, because it's taking in a string, right? It's taking in a string and not a integer. That's something we got to remember, right? You're definitely going to see that in your stuff. That was a logic error, and that's my fault. So if we're going to do this, we need to make it an int. We can do two things. You can change the integer. You can change the variable to integer and check for 6, or you can change the thing to a string. So in this case, I'm going to change that variable, whatever the user enters, into an integer, and then it's going to check against another integer. In this case, I simply told it to look for the string because what the user enters is a string. So if he hits the 5 key, he's not putting in an integer, he's putting in a string, and it should work. Let's see what happens when I pull the trigger here. Enter number 6. Variable equals 6. Okay, that is awesome. Run that. Variable equals 5. Variable equals 5. So great. And just to be sure, I put in a 9 here. It's just, this is neither. Neither. All right, so I'm glad I had that little snafu. That is something that you will probably encounter, maybe even in the labs this week. I hope you understand what all just happened. But did you notice how each time I want to enter a number, I got to rerun the script? It's kind of a pain. So what we want to actually do is make it a loop. So it continues to go until a condition is met. And let's do... let's do like this. I'll keep with the naming convention. So we want to have the user enter a number between 1 and 20. Now, this is a third way to correct that same issue I just had. Instead of accepting a string, we turn all the stuff he enters into an integer. Since we're asking for a number, it should be an integer. And then we want to we're going to declare two things. My number and the variable. The variable is whatever the user enters. So while the variable that the user enters is not equal to my number, we want to continue to do something. So yeah, I need to do this again. We need to redeclare it. All right, so what this little bit of code right here do, this is a while loop. And while the variable that the user enters is not equal to my number, it's going to print or tell the user that the variable that they didn't guess the right number, try again. And then it's going to accept that variable again. So we have to ask them for it the first time and then ask them again inside the loop to keep that loop going. Let's see if this even works. Enter a number between 1 and 25. Nope, not the right number. Try again. 6. Nope. 8. Nope. 9. Nope. 13. And then exit because that's the right number. So what do we do? What if we want to print something like, hey, you won, whatever? We just stick that outside the while loop. Remember, everything here is indented, so it's inside the while loop. And as soon as I put something outside the while loop, it will do that once the loop is completed. So if I run this again, it'll run, pick a number 5. Nope, try again 6. Try again 9, try again, and if I get the right number, it'll say correct, and then it exits because there's no code after that. But this code will not execute until the loop is finished. The whole time, you're re-going through, you're inside that while loop. There is also a for loop, and that's like counting. See if I can figure a good way to put this. So you have to usually do this for however many things are in a thing. Does that make sense? That's what a for loop is really going to be saying. For however many letters in a sentence, or for how many items in a list. You're going to see that a lot. We're going to work with lists a lot. For any item in a list is important to understand because we're going to do that quite a bit. Right now, we'll talk about a range. So for number, and this word can be anything. Generally, when I work with counters or any of that stuff, I just use the letter I. But I'm trying to make this so you understand it. So for number in, and you see that's orange, so it's a keyword. And we're going to learn about range. So for I in range, print, or for number in range, we're just going to print the number right this second. So you'll see, but this becomes a variable and it stores information. So what this is saying is for every number in range 5, and that's between 1 and 5, I think. Remember, computers start counting at 0. We usually start counting at 1. So it's either going to print 0 to 4 or 1 to 5. We'll find out that in just a second. But for every number in the range is going to print that number. So it's going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to do it at least 5 times. So it's a loop that will exit on its own within 5 runs or 5 iterations of that loop. Oh, I had this still in here. Let's get that out of there and stop this and run it again. And see, I did it without even really quick. So it starts, you got to remember this too, that the computer starts counting at 0. So like if you have a 10 item list, it's items 0 through 9, not 1 through 10. And you have to remember that. And again, so in this case, it gives us 5 numbers, but it always starts with 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So for every thing, in this case a number, in a range, it's going to do something that many times. So if I made this 15, it would iterate 15 times, and we'd get numbers 1 through 14, just like that. It's going to print that number. This is useful for a few things. I'm trying to keep it simple and not get crazy, but you will have a few other things. If we go back and to that if stuff, and say you got a secret word instead of a number, and you want somebody to guess the word. Word. Enter a word. Find the secret word. Guess the secret word. I don't know. You want to make it sound cool. I forgot to put input. So now we don't have to do int because we're looking at strings. And then do a while. And while the word, while w is not equal to word. I'm going to put this in parentheses. See, I forget the syntax a lot too. You got to practice this stuff. While w is going to print, that's not it. And then you have to take this back in, ask him again for that secret word. Crap. And then just to kind of show you the difference between integer strings and that kind of thing, you can do this with words, numbers. I guess a secret word. I don't know, box. Nope, that's not it. Right? Nope. Password. Is your password? Nope. And I put it secret, and I got it. Simple while loops. Because this is a word, you can do so don't forget your quotes and all that good stuff. I tend to get in a hurry. So if w is equal to password, and why is this all weird? That's why. Remember your operators is equal to. It's checking to see, we're not assigning it password. We're checking to see if it is password. So I've got a while with an if statement in there. So if the user types password, the type password is a box. No, is it password? That would be the no, and that would not be safe. Well, I'll put not, and that would not be safe anyway. And then that's not it. So you got this in here. It says two things, no, and that would be stupid, and it's still not it. Or it wouldn't be safe. And then you can do lots of things inside these ifs, but that and inside the whiles and the ifs. I encourage you to play with these, your labs. You're going to do some stuff in these labs that's a bit challenging. You're going to use some math too. There's one. Most of you should know how to do math. This is not a math class, but the modulus, or it's like a division. When the division comes to an even number and not like a decimal, use the modulus. So if I don't know. I don't even know how to 10 modulus 2. 10 mod 2 is equal to 0. Oh my goodness gracious. I think I'll just let the book describe this. It'll do a better job. Oh, still running. I didn't exit out of my loop over here. I can't see my stop button, sorry. All right, so 10 modulus 2. That means 10 is evenly divisible by 2, and it results obviously in 5, which is a whole number. So the modulus is 0. I'll change that to modulus 3. 10 divided by 3 is going to be some point or whatever. So I just want to see. Make sure this works. Run. Yeah, and it's false because well, let's here. Let's see what these are. We can actually print 10 mod 2 and 10 mod 3. I don't know if there needs to be a space there or not. So if 10 mod 2, it's going to print what that modulus is, right? And the modulus is going to be 0. Run 0, print 0. But if it's 3, it's 1. Modulus is 1. The book will describe that better than I have. But you'll use that in at least one of your labs today, this week. I think I covered, I mean, I touched on everything, most everything. There's going to be more stuff in there. It's going to be more in depth in the Net Academy. If you have any questions, let me know as early as possible, because like I said, this stuff is confusing, and if you don't get it now, it's going to be more difficult later. I haven't got a whole lot of emails from anybody, so I'm assuming everyone's doing fine, unless I have heard from you. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.